So we're here with another episode of Spade Talk. I'm joined by my brother, Zack. How are you?
I'm good, buddy. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for asking. So, Zack, for the people that don't know you, give us a quick rundown on who you are.
Yeah, I am mostly known for being a Flair bartender. Been in the bartending scene for 24 years. Got pretty popular back in the day, pretty popular in the Flair bartending scene, did competitions, got into the bar scene and all the above. I'm mostly known as a guy that's just the bartender that does all the tricks and tries to stay a little healthy at the same time. But I guess that's pretty much who I am in a little, what people know of me anyways. But yeah, that's pretty much it, eh?
So what do people not know about you?
What they don't know about me is, let's see. There's probably tons, eh? Driven, although I have a bit of a chilled personality. I look like I look like the lazy guy, but I work.
You work hard.
I work hard.
I know that, yeah.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I don't know what they don't know about me.
Okay,
I don't
so
really show it off anyways. Right?
Yeah, let's start at the beginning because we had met, right, a couple years ago, and then we got really connected through our passion for fitness and health. And at the time, you were getting ready for a show. And so fitness has it always been a cornerstone in your life?
No, not really. Yes and no. So I was lucky. I was fortunate. Growing up, I had good genetics. I was thin, but I was also muscular, and I can eat whatever I want. And when you grow up like that, you actually believe it. You think you can eat whatever you want all the time. But I do come from a heavy family. And when I was getting to my 30s, I was a bit stressed. I had like relationship issues, and I was opening up a business and all that stuff. And the way that I deal with stress is I eat, right? So I went from being this guy who was like a lean, mean machine to all of a sudden get rapidly heavy really quick. And when I was eating like, man, McDonald's for breakfast, McDonald's for lunch, any fast food, drive-through. I was just eating like snacks, dinner. I was eating so much, and I started to feel the decline, man. Honestly, I could feel it in my stomach. I could feel it in my brain. I was forgetting orders behind the bar. Like I was sleeping all the time.
This is at what age?
34.
Okay.
But then, so it was that, man, and I was worried about it because I come from a heavy family. I was like, man, I'm going in that route, man. And it was just I needed to change. So I started focusing on my diet. To be honest, man, I was worried about myself because I was like, everything that I was experiencing, I was like on Google, and Google, is the worst thing. It's like, you've got cancer, you've got this, you've got that. But it did lead me to a documentary which kind of like helped me about sugar intake and stuff. So I lost all the weight really quickly, to be honest. I dropped sugar. I lost about 45 pounds in just about 2 months. Wasn't going to the gym. I was like going to the gym once in a while. And then I lost the weight, and I felt great. But then I gained it all back again because once you lose the weight, you're like, I can have chicken wings again and all that stuff. So I gained it back, and that's when me and Callie are together, started. And then we did that 21-day challenge for the TLS, man. And I remember everybody, like, we are all doing it. And I was like, listen, man, if I lose this weight, I'm not gaining it back. That's like the hardest part, right? So I did the 21-day challenge, and I remember when it was over, I lost like 10 pounds or something like that. And everyone's like, wicked, let's go to Kyung's. We used to go to Kyung's Chinese
right?
food, man.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, man, I'm not going because I know that slope. It just brings me right back, right? So that's where the fitness part came into it, where I took it very serious because I was like, man, I'm on a roll, man. And man, if you like go through my Instagram too, like you scroll way back when I was heavy, man, like you can see me posting things like, all right, 90-day challenge, let's go. And I couldn't get past day 4. Like I would be like day 4, I'm like, right, I'm done. You know what I mean? Like, so I couldn't do it. So after that TLS challenge and I lost the weight, Callie and I decided like, I'm going to stick to it. And I kept trying to go to the gym as much as I could. And then I started to get like 4 days in a week, and then 5 days. And then I hit 7 days, and I was like, okay, that's it. I'm at 7 days. Let's go. And then.
So you've been doing the gym every single day for like years now. What day are you on?
Today's 25/17. I think that's right. I always have to like go through my previous videos. I always forget. It's like 25/17.
Where you've gone 17 consecutive days. You've done a physical activity and you've documented it. Yeah, which is really cool.
Yeah, on my Instagram, I just posted it in my stories because I don't advertise it. I just it's more for me, to be quite honest, man. I started posting on, I think, like day 96 because Instagram didn't have stories yet. And I was like, so Instagram started, I was like, I'll post a story. But yeah, I would just post all the time. And I was in the gym every day, not like doing like a run outside or anything. I was in a gym. I made the effort to go to a gym every single day from day one to, I think it was 930. And that's when COVID came in. And it broke my heart, man. I remember I had to do my first workout in here filming it. And I was like, oh, I'm cheating, man. I'm like, it's not cheating. You're still lifting. But you're like, oh, man, I'm not in the gym, right? So, because that's what it started, man. When I was heavy, I used to drive to the gym and sit in the parking lot, bro, at like 11 at the night. And I would sit there and I'd be like, okay, let's go to the gym. Let's go to the gym. I'd get on my phone and all of a sudden 30 minutes goes by and then 40 and then an hour. And I'd be sitting there and I would talk myself out of it and be like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to go. I'm going to do an arm workout. And then you get motivated for tomorrow and you're like, all right, I drive home. Tomorrow, same thing. I pull up to the Good Life. I was at Good Life, bro, and I just didn't go into the door. So that's kind of what started is like just get in there. Whatever the workout is, it is. If you go in there for 15 minutes and have a shitty walk, it is what it is. You know what I mean?
Almost everyone's gone through that where
100%.
they've pulled up, right, and then they just left the parking lot right away. But that intention is like what matters. Who were you in high school though? Because we'd met like, just a couple years ago. So, but like, who were you in high school? What would your peers say about you?
Oh man, I was like that same guy, like easy breezy Zack, you know what I mean? Like not a care in the world, lazy student, you know what I mean? But I was popular. I was an athlete. I was in the track. I was in soccer. I played hockey. I was the school president. I was one of those guys. Like I was just like, Zack, he's a joker, you know what I mean? Yeah. But yeah, man, I guess I was like, the popular guy in school, but not like, I don't know, I was just more of like, I made friends with everyone because I like everyone, I wasn't like a jerk or anything like that. I just kind of like walked down the halls and that's who I was, man. Hey, Zack, what's up? So yeah.
What'd you do after high school?
I went to college for visual arts. I wanted to build a portfolio because I'm an art guy. I used to do a lot of drawings and paintings.
Makes sense.
Yeah, man, I was that guy. Eh? And I wanted to be an illustrator. I wanted to go to OCAD. And so I went to Centennial to build a portfolio for it. And then after that, during that time, I got really into like movie makeup, special effects. I just thought it was so cool, man. I wanted to make masks and all that stuff. And I went to apply for the college and I was about 18, 19, I guess at the time. And the college was $15,000 for 6 months. And when you're that age, you're like, $15,000. And you're just like, there's no way. And I'm like, well, I'm going to try. How am I going to do it? Some guy was like, you want to be a bartender? And that's how I got into that. But I never went to that school. Just bartending for the rest of the days now. But yeah, man, that was a long time ago too.
Time flies.
It's flying, man. It's flying.
Yeah. You had said that you had traveled like after that, right?
Yeah.
Where?
Yeah, man. In 2004, I moved to Japan. I lived there for 4 years. I was supposed to be there for 6 months. But man, I fell in love with it, man. Dude, I remember, so when I landed, you worked right away. I had one day to kind of meet people, party, hungover, because that's what they do over there. They drink, they party. And then the next day you work, man. And I remember I worked so much for the first week, plus the jet lag, man. Like you're just like, the hours of difference, I was exhausted, man. And I remember it was a Sunday, it was a quiet night at the bar, and I was so tired, and the boss goes, hey, man, just go home. And I was like, okay. I'm like, but the only thing is because I'm new, like, I don't really know how to get home because I used to come with people or sit in a taxi with people. I'm like, how do I get home? He's like, borrow my bike, and he draws me a map, and I'm riding my bike. I'm following this map, man. I'm riding.
This is before Google Maps and all of that stuff,
man,
right?
There was no smartphones, man. There was nothing, man. And I was riding my bike with this paper in my mouth, and I'm just going, and then you're going through this one part. It's kind of like our Dundas Square area, but like on steroids, way better.
In what city?
In Osaka. Yeah. And I was there, man. And I remember being so busy, riding my bike, and then I don't know, I must have relaxed my jaw for a second, and the map went out of my mouth, bro. And I remember, man, that map went missing. Like I stopped, and I was like, where did this thing go? I'm looking around. Couldn't find it, started to panic. I'm like, oh my God, how am I gonna get home? Where am I? Dude, I rode my bike around for, I would say about an hour. And man, I remember my I almost had a breakdown. I just like stopped. I'm like, I don't know where I am in this city. I'm on my buddy's bike. And I just like felt like I wanted to cry, man. I was like, oh, what am I gonna do? And I just looked over to my right and I saw this one store that I recognized. And I was just like, wait a second. I looked to my left. And dude, no shit, man. I stopped right in front of my apartment, man.
Wow.
Right in front of my apartment. I went, oh. And that was like the moment where I went, I'm going to love this place, man. This is all right. It was good, man. I was supposed to be there for 6 months. I was there for just over 4 years, just bartending. Look, it was made, man. The universe wanted it to happen. When I was bartending before that, I used to talk to my buddy about going to Japan all the time. I saw like a documentary about it. I thought it was so cool. And then I worked at a bar I wasn't really happy with, and I decided to quit. And I went home, man. I went on to workopolis.com, which is probably not a website anymore. And the first thing that popped up, man, was looking for a Canadian Flair bartender to work in Osaka, Japan. And I was just like dream job, first thing, man. Sent my resume.
Sold.
Yeah, man, sent my resume. They called me the next day, and I remember, man, it was crazy. When they called me, the guy, it was a little broken up, his voice, and he's just like, he's like, hey, Zack, whatever, he's doing an interview, and he goes, I just want to let you know, I'm sorry if I sound robotic. He goes, I'm just letting you know, we're using this new technology called Skype. He goes, I'm just sitting here talking to my computer. And I remember being in front of my brother's computer, and I had that phone, like, it just had a blue light on it. There was nothing else on there. And I couldn't even fathom, man. I'm like, wait a second, you're talking to your computer? What's the sound? Like, blew my mind. But yeah, man, that was a cool little interview. Yeah, I flew out there, man, and the best. Recommend Japan.
Japan is like definitely on my bucket list of places to go. I only really knew about like Tokyo, and then I learned about Osaka and all these other cities, and I love the culture there. What are some things that the Japanese are known for, or what are some cultural differences that you've noticed when you were out there?
They're hard workers, man. Hard workers. Like, they work, and they want to perfect things, you know? So, like, for example, just the bartending scene alone, like, their whiskeys are dynamite. You know, their bartenders are dynamite. The cocktails are dynamite. They put everything and anything into it. Man, even the bar that I worked at, they would have this like reggae night on Thursdays, and it would be all like reggae dancers, all Japanese, usually Japanese girls, but man, they practice, they compete, and they were like amazing, man. Like, you just like, when they go into something, they go in 100%, man. And that's something that, like, me being like the easy breezy guy, like, I would go in 75%, enough to be satisfied, but like not like go in 100%. But these, no, they go in 100%. And their culture is great, man. They got history. Like, Canadian culture, there's not really much to it, I guess, or maybe there is. I just don't consider it. But Japanese culture, man, you're like walking down the street, man, and you got this beautiful brand new building with lights and stuff on it, and then right beside it, there's like a little temple that's been there for hundreds of years, and you're like, man, it's just crazy.
And they have like their little mannerisms of like, they don't eat while they're walking, and they have like their respect, you know, rituals when they greet each other. So it's very interesting. After your experience in Japan, you came back, right? Then what'd you do?
Yeah, man. So I came back. So I started getting into so I just started getting into competitions just before Flair bartending competitions. Just before I went to Japan. Went to Japan, and I realized that my level was not at the level it should have been, because when I went, they just destroyed me. Like, they were. I mean, like, with like 2 objects, I was on par, but these guys were doing like 5 objects. Blew my mind, but I learned a lot from them. So I came back with one of my bar managers, a good buddy of mine from New Zealand. Came back. We were like, okay, we're gonna spend a year in Canada, man. Show the ropes, and then I'm gonna go back to Japan with you. And then so we spent a year. He ended up leaving. I stayed for a little bit longer. But I started doing more competitions, and I started getting into it, and I realized that I had a bit of a weakness, that when I got on stage, my skill set wasn't as good as when I could just practice. So I was like, okay, I'm going to start like this men's league Flair bartending kind of thing. So any of my friends that want to start, you know, because the Flair scene was a little bit bigger back then, I was like, hey, man, if you guys just want to kind of get together, and it's just like a practice competition where we kind of just get to perform in front of each other and build a little bit of stage presence and stuff like that. So we were like, okay, fine, let's do it. So I had about 5 guys, and I remember I called it the TFL, the Toronto Flair League, eh? And we went to the Loose Moose where I used to work downtown in Toronto, and their basement was closed, and I went to talk to my manager, said, listen, I got a couple buddies, we're just going to do a little Flair competition. Can we pay you to kind of like borrow the room and then just like let us do our thing? And he's like, absolutely. But the thing is, man, word got out about the TFL, man. And it was weirdest thing, because we did not expect it. Like, I'm expecting, no shit. I swear, I'm sorry if I swear.
Yeah,
okay.
No, you're good.
I was expecting, man, like 10 people to show up, you know what I mean? But man, we got rocked, and they did sales on a night where they were like, the manager of the bar came to me after and was like, Zack, don't give me your money. We're going to start paying you. You got to start doing these events. It was packed, man. And it was great. We would do these Flair competitions, and then we were starting to get some recognition from other bars, and they wanted to host one, so we were doing one every month all over the city, and then we had people coming all over the world competing in it. So what happened, though, is I started teaching it as well. And I was getting like a lot of students, but I didn't have a location. So I was just teaching at the beach. It started to get cold and snowy. I needed a spot, and I thought, okay, you know what, man, I'm just gonna see about what it costs to get like a location, right? This guy back in 2010. And yeah, man, we opened it up, and it was like my first business. I called it Flair Studios Canada, man. And there was nothing in here. It was just empty, and there was bar mats all over the floor. We had portable bars everywhere. That's actually where I met Manson. Portable bars everywhere, man. And we just had these people come in and pay memberships, and we teach them how to flare, or they can just practice and kind of get used to the space. And
what year what year is this?
This is from 2010 to like 2012. Maybe almost 12, yeah, about 2012, the end of 2012. But man, it was like the biggest learning experience ever, because like you think you're just gonna like, people are trying not to pay memberships, like, and they're your friends, eh? They're like, come on, man, let it slide. And then you're the nice guy, like, okay, and you're just like taking on everyone's payments. Yeah, man, broken glass was everywhere. I used to throw out like hundreds of pounds of broken glass all the time, and it just wasn't the best business model, eh? So it didn't last very long. But there was a niche for it, man. People wanted to learn, and there was a value of learning these skill set behind the bar, because you stand out, you look like a pro, right? So I decided to open up another business called youflair.com, when it was like an online kind of vibe, where it's like anything that you want to learn about bartending, from flair to cocktails, anything, it was all on this website. And that was a huge experience for me too, because we had it customly built, and this was before Wix and all that stuff. So man, you're spending money that you're like, just to get a website built then. I remember when I spoke to the guys at Market America or whatever, they laughed at me, bro. They're like, "You spent that much money on a website?" And I was like, "Yeah, I thought."
Yeah,
that was
that was before it was like mainstreamed, right?
Yeah,
like
man.
back in the days, even to shoot like any sort of video, how much it costs, like how they made movies and stuff back in the day versus now. And so like that website stuff, I can understand, because I was like in an online business like long time ago, that I was trying to start up with a few friends. So I understand. Yeah, like those times the numbers were ridiculous, like in the tens of thousands.
Yeah, 100%. And again, you're still like, and I'm like a dumb entrepreneur, no business background, just being like, how much money? But we made it work, and we got it done, and it was a great website. And then bit of a falling out between me and my business partner. And again, I wasn't at the level where I should have been as a business owner. I was still too nice, too easy breezy Zack Prohaska, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't speak my truths when I should have spoken my truths. And I just got overwhelmed, a lot of work and stuff like that. But to be honest, man, the failure of that one too was a blessing, because it led to something that's even better. And I'm very happy with the business that I have right now. It's growing. It's got a great brand behind it. It's doing well on social media. You know what I mean? So you gotta do a shitty business to make a good business, right? Learn from your mistakes.
Absolutely. So what is your main business model now?
So right now, we've been lucky because we're fortunate enough to make money in different avenues in this business. Okay, so during the pandemic, so we are an event company. We're a cocktail catering company. We just give a little bit of an elevated cocktail experience for people, rather than just hire random bartenders. We bring everything from bar sets to high end cocktails. We've seen it, and we just keep going more and more and more, bigger and bigger and bigger. But yeah, our main focus is our cocktail catering, but we still make money with the content, and we still do online training. Obviously during the pandemic, my hands were tied, so I had to get content going, and I did an online masterclass that was going. It was kind of like learned it from my previous online business, right? So it was just something that we would just sell. And so we're getting online, we're doing content, we're doing events, we're doing some training as well right now. I just don't have the time for training at the moment. But yeah, man, we're just kind of bringing it all in. But right now, I think my main focus is purely content right now. Content is the events, just because, man, there's a demand for it. And when we're at an event, like, not only do we see it, but our clients are seeing it. The people that are coming in, we've taken it up a notch, and I think we're doing great, man. I really do.
Yeah, you guys definitely are. And so, COVID happened, and it affected a lot of people in many different ways. How did it affect you outside of the business?
Yeah, man. It was man, I could talk about COVID for hours, man. COVID was a weird one. It was not being able to work, and the way like, I don't know how political we can go on this bad boy, but like the way it was handled here, I had a lot of questions that weren't being answered. And I was surprised that a lot of people didn't have the same questions. And it was just, it got weird, man. People got angry, man. People got mean. My dog was stolen during COVID, bro. You know, like it was, I got him back, but took 20 months of court cases and stuff like that. But, yeah, man, it was a weird time. Yeah, I mean, like I said, we can go political about it. I can go all out.
Like
on
personally, it, like, yeah, in like your life, you know, however much you're comfortable in sharing is like, because a lot of times COVID like affected people, you know, some positively, some negatively. A lot of people stepped their game up,
Yep.
right, and came out the other side better, right, even though going through it wasn't easy. But a lot of people have obviously seen the other side of that, which was more negative, you know.
Yeah, man, everyone had a different experience. Like some of my clients, and they're obviously got some wealthy pockets. They're like, we loved COVID because they got to go to their cottage and hang out with their family. And of course, man, that's great. And you're absolutely right, man. Going into COVID, I turned on the hustle because, man, like just before COVID too, man, I got the most bookings for events, and it was just me at the time, which was whatever. I was like, man, me and Callie were like celebrating, like, look how many bookings I have. And then people started getting sick, and then the COVID came in, and all of a sudden it was like that. All of those bookings just went, and I remember I made a vow, man, because this is my office, this is my man cave, eh? And I was like, I am not going to lose this studio during COVID, so I'm going to figure something out, man. So that's when I started doing like TikTok videos. I was doing a lot of Zoom training, which was awesome. I was surprised on how well that did. I was teaching people all over the world. Just like I would just come in and they're like boom, 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 and they would have access to my videos. But I would also have like a 1 day a week where I would come in, look at their techniques, give them some advice, give them some challenges. That was really cool, man. Seeing people from like Russia and Ireland and Florida and everywhere, all over, man. And even to see them now, like to see how good they are now, and you're like, oh, all right, it's nice to see. But yeah, man, I just kind of pivoted that way. So it kind of, as shitty as COVID was, 100%, I grew during it. You're forced to adult, right? And then when my dog got stolen, and I was just like, okay. And then you're hearing about these court costs, and you're like, so you got to pay these court costs on top of everything else that we're paying for, like rents and food, and you're also, your hands are tied with work, and you can't do what you can normally do for money, and you got to do all this internet and content stuff. It was tough, man, but Callie and I, man, we were like, no, we're going to rock it, man. We're going to rock it. And I don't know, man, if the universe was like, we like your style or whatever, man, but like we got busy, man. I got busy with a lot of the virtual events. That was something that was weird for me. Somebody asked me if I can do a virtual event. I had no idea what that meant. I was like, what do you mean? I'm just going to sit there bartending?
Just Flair, like,
yeah, and people are just going to sit there and watch me? I'm like, that's the what?
Was that how it turned out?
No, man. It was great. And we still sell them. I was just like, teaching people how to make a drink. So everybody that had the same ingredients as I did, but I had the setup and it was more of a show. And I would teach them how to make 2 drinks and proper techniques. And then, I also perform with Flair. So it's like a little bit like, all right, you add vodka. They're just doing this, but I'm throwing bottles around. And I would do a little fire show and stuff at the end. And man, it was busy, man. I was doing like 4 or 5 a day. Man, I used to have different bars set up here. And I remember I would just do one event. I'm like, all right, guys, thank you very much. And just run, switch the camera around, do one here, and run, switch the camera. It kept me super busy, man. And yeah, I was thankful for that, man. That was good. The virtual events definitely helped out. And then I lucked out with TikTok. I just started making videos, and I got some pretty good exposure from that. And then people were like paying me to throw their bottles around in videos or showcase their shaker tins or their Hawaiian shirts. Aprons.
So the people would send you stuff.
They would send me stuff, but it was funny, man, because they would send me stuff. First, it was like, "Hey, do you want to, showcase my vodka?" And I'm like, "Yeah, for sure." And then all of a sudden, it was like my following kept going and going. It was like, "Hey, do you want to showcase my vodka? And what would you charge?" And I was like, "Wait a second, what?" And then I was like, "Okay." And I would start small, and then I started asking other people. And then one day, I remember I was just like, "It's gonna cost this." I threw out a fat number, and they're like, "Okay," well, and I was just like. And that became my baseline. I was just like, yeah, man. And it's not hard work for me, man. I just literally turn the lights off. I can get the video done in 5 minutes. But I was getting paid for it. I was like, okay, this is great, man. So I lucked out, man. But it came from the hustle, man. It came like I had to like do things, man. I had to paint this bar. I had to get lights. I had to get like.
It's a completely different place than
Yeah,
than a couple years ago.
Yeah, I think you were here. There was a big green wall or
Yes.
something like that.
Yeah.
And that was my old business with the green screen. Yeah, man. But yeah, I definitely came out on top and learned a lot. Learned a lot about people during COVID. Learned a lot about business during COVID, and learned a lot about myself, man.
What'd you learn about people?
Can't trust everybody. You can't trust everybody. And there's certain people that, man, like your friend circle, it kind of just goes, when you see the way people can treat other people or react or how they even reach out to you,
Yeah.
you kind of just go, okay. And it's like you hear when you get older, your circles of friends get smaller and smaller, man. And it's just like, and it is what it is. Everyone gets busier and busier. And during the pandemic, man, I just learned that I can just be like, okay, I got my wifey, I got my dogs, I got a few good friends, I got my business. I'm good, man. I don't need to hang out with people and be like drinking with them and partying with them. I mean, it's nice to see people 100%, but I mean, I just learned that I'm good with being in a smaller group.
Absolutely. I think that's just like part of like the stages of life. But what's cool is your inner circle starts to get smaller and smaller, but your network will increase,
100%.
right? As you're doing business, you're still out there meeting people. I think people think that, you're just isolating yourself more and more when people say, you lose people in your life or whatnot. But really it's just, no, you're just kind of concentrating, right? Where you're really putting your energy.
Yep.
And then, but the networking, the way, you're out and you're meeting cool people, especially in your profession, it's cool. So I want people to understand that if like you have falling out with people or whatever, it doesn't mean that, you have to kind of just go isolationist mode or live on an island. No, there's still other cool people that you'll network with, learn from, 100%. All of that. And so, yeah, it's just, I find that that's life. That's going to happen. It happens throughout high school, university, college, after that. But yeah, just every day, just being able to put yourself out there, you'll be able to kind of like meet and connect with other people that are more of your tribe.
I agree, and that's kind of how it's happening now too. Like the people that I do hang out with, motivated, they're doing their own thing. They think differently, like what we were talking about before about the Spade. You know what I mean? It's like it's a different mindset. It's not like, hey, let's just go to the bar and drink. You know what I mean? Like that used to be fun, but now I'm just more aware of what I'm doing with my time now, man. Because like, man, I'm way older than you. The older you get, man, this time keeps flying by faster and faster, man. Days are going by so quick, and I don't have time to go to parties. Man, I don't even have time to watch sports. I don't do. I just work and I hang out with the wife and the dogs, and I gym. That's pretty much it, So yeah, when you get older, you just gotta manage your time, I guess, a little bit better and give it to the people that deserve it.
So you're a dog owner.
I'm a dog owner, man. Yeah, I own 2 beautiful pups. Elton John, a big Great Dane, and Kingsley, a little black lab border collie mix. Awesome, man. I had a 3rd dog. She ended up passing away. She was my first dog. Man, amazing. She was awesome too. She was like so scary looking, but like the cutest in the heart, man. She's a Cane Corso, like just beautiful. You know what's crazy about those dogs, man? I got to show you this picture. I don't have it with me right now, but I got to show you. This is wild, man. When we were doing that Market America thing, and I remember they were like, man, make a vision board. And we're like, all right. So I made a vision board. I had like a mansion, motorcycles, blah, 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 blah. And Callie, man, she made one, and she picked, this is the crazy thing, 3 dogs. And she put these dogs on her vision board. During the pandemic, man, we were gifted 3 dogs. And I swear to God, man, if you compare these photos, it's the craziest thing.
Wow.
They look exactly the same. It was the wildest thing, and it wasn't something that we were like looking for.
With no intention.
No intention. Just showed up, man. BB, we just ended up walking in to one of her family's places and mentioned that we're going to look for a dog, and the guy was like, well, why don't you just get BB? And we were like, okay. And BB was like the cool black, like short ears, scary looking dog. She was amazing, and beautiful dog. And then like Callie, all of a sudden, one of her clients was this big, beautiful Great Dane, and then it was like, that was one. And then he ended up couldn't handle the dog because he had a big business, and he was just like, I don't got time. Literally, I showed up to my apartment, man, and there was a Great Dane in my apartment just like hanging out. And I'm like, I look on the kitchen table, and there's a box with all these like papers in it, and I'm like, "Do we have a great day now?" And she's like, "Yeah." So that was a surprise. And then Kingsley was also a previous client, which whatever. That's anyways. So she ended up giving him to us because the man that she was marrying had allergies. I don't know their story. It was a weird story. But and then we ended up getting Kingsley from them too. So it was just wild, man. You just gifted these things. But man, that picture, man, it's just like it's pure manifested. It's wild the way the universe works sometimes.
Yeah, the way things are interconnected. I don't believe it's coincidence.
100%.
Yeah. So you guys got dogs recently, like during COVID. What made you make that decision at this point of your life?
Man, I always loved dogs. I never owned one. Callie, she had dogs her whole life, so she kind of was like, "Hey, I'm thinking about, what about thinking about getting a dog and stuff like that." And I was like, "Okay, like I'll do it." And then, but it was nice, man, because I'll tell you, man, the minute I started getting when I had BB, like responsibility changes in your brain a little bit because it's something new, it's something that's alive. You got to feed it, but you got to feed them well. And then you're looking at vet bills, and you got to pay for insurance, which I always recommend all the dog owners out there get insurance. But it was just like it was such a learning experience and a responsibility that I never really had. But man, like once you have a pup, I mean, I've become like a weird dog guy now. Man, I love dogs, man. Yeah,
because it's such a massive shift from like how I seen you before, right? It's like I wouldn't expect that you'd be like all in on your dogs, but yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, man, 100%. And like I like going home to them, and and I like taking care of them, and man, it's like they're taking care of me without even knowing it, right? Like I went from like just like thinking of like work, and like it was just a bit of a paradigm shift where you have a little bit more responsibility and you look at life a little bit different, and you realize, man, like you'd rather, instead of working so hard, sometimes it's just better to hang out at home with the wife and the dogs and let you sit back. And you kind of need that balance where like I've got a bit of an addictive personality, so I can work, like I can sit here and I can be in the studio and not leave the studio for a week easily and just work. That's just the kind of guy that I am. But I needed something like that to kind of get me out of that and kind of like appreciate life a little bit more and experiences and emotion and stuff like that.
They put you into a routine, right? Like you got to walk them, you got to take care of them. So when you're up, like your routine's kind of around like that responsibility.
100%, man. And it's motivation too. Like I know, like I guess dog owners or dog lovers kind of get it, but like I never thought about it before until I had one. But once you have one, it's like they're your kids. You love them like they're your kids. I mean, I don't have any children yet, but I'm sure it's pretty close. I've heard that it's pretty close. Yeah, man, you got to take care of them, and like it's nice, man. But it also pushes you to be better, and it's motivating for you to be like, okay, man, like I got to make more money because, I want to pay for their insurance. I want to like get a cottage so they can run around for the weekend or something like that. It's motivating, man. Man, I'll tell you right now, man, if I ever need to lift some heavy weights at the gym, put some music on, I'll think of my dogs for a second. I'm just like, let's go. Like, it's like, let's throw some weights around, man. Yeah.
I actually want to get a dog. I was thinking like a husky, German shepherd, maybe mix. I want someone that's like active with me, right? I want my dog to be like my companion, go to the gym with me and like, I'll put a weighted vest on him eventually and stuff like that.
Well, you're active, man. So if you're active, and especially that mix, if you're doing like a husky, German shepherd or anything, even any kind of husky, man, you're gonna, they got more energy than you, man. So.
Yeah, that's what I've seen and been told for sure.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's a dog life.
So, like we touched a little bit on like life before COVID, after COVID, during whatnot. One thing that I notice about you is that you like to seek the truth, and sometimes you like to seek uncomfortable truths that people aren't really willing to hear too much. Who are some people that that have kind of like changed the way you view things?
Oh man, lots of. Well, I mean, just based off of like listening to a lot of podcasts, giving me I can just go through podcasts right now. You got like your Joe Rogans and stuff like that, where you just listen to different people talk the way they think about things, rather before I would listen to something and I would be like, I'd have my opinion and all I knew was my opinion. I'd be like, oh, but then when you hear somebody else explain something, you go, oh, wait, okay, that actually makes a little bit of sense, and it kind of alters the way you think of things. But yeah, I owe a lot of it to podcasts. Man, I owe a lot of it to you too, brother. I remember like, man, my whole when we went to the gym the first time, I remember we were like, okay, we're going to work out together. And I was like, bro, I'm going to smoke this guy at the gym. And I was like, and then I did every exercise wrong. You're like, bro, what are you doing? Your technique's terrible. I'm like, man, this guy knows a lot of stuff. And I remember, then we started working.
I don't think I said it that way, but you know.
No, man. But man, I remember too, man, because like I used to be like riddled in like pain, sore shoulders and hips, man. I remember like I couldn't even squat. Like I remember you and Nick, you and Nick in Good Life. You guys were like just hovered down, squatting, just like talking. And I tried to go down, man, and I was like not even at 45 degrees, man. And my hips were so tight, my shoulders were sore. And I remember you saying to me, man, you were going, dude, you don't have to live like this. Because I thought it was it. Like I was like, oh, I got shoulder issues, that's that. But you're like, you don't have to live like this. And you like would tell me about like exercises that would change, and then my shoulders got better. And I was like, man, this guy's way younger than me. And he like knows so much more, man. So, and then you also went a little extreme with the workouts with me, but like we did that mayhem.
Yeah. That was a cool period of time.
Yeah, man. But yeah, like, but I appreciate that, man, because there was like, even with your perspective on life and like how driven you were, man. And at my age, being like, I'm like 10, 11 years older than you, I think, maybe even more. And just being like, man, like I'm way behind, bro. Like I gotta like change my vision a little bit and kind of like focus more on me. And I was already going to the gym all the time, but I wasn't learning, I guess, at the same time. I was just like going through the motion, lifting weights, dealing with the pain rather than learning about mobility or learning anything like that. But that's what kind of changes my perspective is guys like you, man, and just listening to people online. And I found too, man, like, especially like during the pandemic, what opened my eyes was like, I heard this saying once, and I thought that it was one of my favorite sayings, and it's nothing really special, but it was like, and I'm going to butcher it, I'm sorry, but you have black ants and red ants in a jar. Nothing happens. You shake that jar up and they fight to the death. And you're like, who's shaking the jar, right? So during the pandemic, for me anyways, man, and like even before the pandemic, I started to see the inconsistencies with information that was being put online. Like if you listen to both sides of the story, it made you go, but if you're listening to only one side of the story, like you don't see what the other side is. So I felt like during the pandemic, being in the middle and going, okay, there's guys over here talking about this, there's guys over here talking about this, but these guys are getting no recognition and they seem like they're pretty legit. It kind of opened my eyes to be like, okay, man, like you don't know what you don't know, and you gotta just like not trust people's words or their information, because usually, man, if someone's just giving you some information, it's either opinions or they're butchering the knowledge of it. They're just like, oh, I've heard this, and then some people, they hear that and then they take it as a fact and then they start spreading it around, you know?
Yeah, they start regurgitating things that they've heard. 100%. We're in like an era right now where if people read the headlines and they don't read the article. Yep. Right. And so the headline is the truth and information is just coming in like this. So if you don't have like the discipline to actually filter through that information, you might get programmed into a way of thinking that you didn't really adopt.
100%. And I saw it, man. I saw it happening to people. But lucky, man, I was lucky too during the pandemic because I had this place. So I had lots of free time to be on the computer, lots of time to listen to podcasts and listen to different types of news and different stories and stuff like that. But yeah, man, that was the pandemic. The podcasts all really helped me kind of like open up my mind now, where even if I hear something and I'm defensive for a second, because I guess it's natural, I'm like, I hold it off and I go, just listen, you know, hear the perspective out, get into their shoes, you know, and if it makes sense, it makes sense. If it doesn't, it doesn't have to be a fight. That's just the way somebody thinks. No big deal. But yeah, no, I definitely, listening to more people talk about things and listening to everybody's more ideas at once, it opened up my brain a little bit, knowing that it's not all this, you know what I mean? There's a lot more going on out there.
I was at an event a couple years ago called the Social Light Conference. And at the time, there was a higher up Twitter executive that was speaking at the time. This was before Elon Musk even bought the company and changed it to X or whatever. But it was very impactful what that lady had said, because she pretty much was saying that conversations are what move the world forward.
Yeah.
When you stop talking, that's when real problems start arising. And you could see through the division that happened all throughout the world, really. It was because we weren't trying to hear everybody talk.
Yeah.
right? So I think if you're in a community, right, neighborhood, friends, family, whatever, it's like, don't stop talking, even if you have like differing viewpoints and opinions, because that's how you actually discern and get to the bottom of things. And even if your opinions don't change and they're still staunch or whatever, I really believe just talking and conversing and being open-minded when you do that. You don't come into a conversation closed-minded. Yeah. I never come in thinking like I know everything. I have my beliefs, right, that I hold firmly to, but that's after so many years of, you know, doing my own research, exactly, right, on these things. And so that's cool, man. We're going to wrap up the podcast just now. We'll do a part 2, you know, in the future. But before we go, what's one thing you want to leave people with?
One thing I want to leave people with. If there's something about yourself that you don't like, that's bugging you and it's eating you up, work on it. You know, a lot of people don't, man. And that for me, it was weight. I knew I was getting heavy. It's not even just weight. It's everything. It's like, it could be with business. You know if you're having an issue, and you know if the issue is caused by yourself, which in my opinion and in my experience, sorry, it usually is. If you're ever going to blame someone, you got to blame yourself. But that's a good thing though too, because then you can fix it because you know what's wrong. So if you have something that's bothering you and it's about yourself, work on it, man. Fix it. Do whatever it is. Find out what it is. Be true about it. Be honest to yourself. A lot of people they're not honest to themselves. They lie to themselves or they give excuses. Call yourself on your excuses. Call yourself on your procrastination, and just, man, work on yourself, man, because it's like, it gets better when you can do more things and you're understanding. Like, in my opinion, I went from a guy who was like stupid to less stupid, you know what I mean? And like, and that little less stupid is like, when I look back at some of my stuff, I'm like, man, what was I thinking? Just didn't know, you know? But even at that time, I knew I didn't know, but I just didn't put in the effort into the work. So if you have any issues with yourself, if you're, you know, just work on yourself, focus on yourself, stay healthy, man, 100% stay healthy. Don't go that direction. And just make sure you're your number one fan, man, because we're usually our number one enemy. So you got to balance it out, right? Kick that enemy in the butt one time and showcase your skills, you know? Build.
That was beautiful. Appreciate you, brother.
Thanks, man. Cheers.